Hi everyone, I hope you're all well. It's an absolutely gorgeous morning here in the south of England. We've got blue sky, it's lovely but quite chilly, thus the fluffy fleece is on. I think definitely spring is here, or very much on its way. And my walks during the day and such, when I'm obviously, because I'm working from home, I go out every lunchtime for a walk, and I'm certainly feeling warmer and warmer as the days have gone on this week. It has been another busy week, but not like last week, which has been great. I'm still watching Doctor Who. I am right near the end of series 8 now, so I'm going to be finishing series 8 today, so I can kick off next week with series 9. What else have I been doing? I've treated myself to something. So because of COVID, we had like a pay freeze, which has happened in like every organisation across the UK. But we've been given, where I work, a one-off payment. And I decided to treat myself. I've treated myself to two things. One is the adult side of my brain, and one is the more, well, not childlike, but more for me side of my brain when we're still in lockdown and can't go out. So I've ordered myself a brand new Hoover, because the adult side of my brain, and the kind of more luxury side of my brain, I bought myself a nudie. I'm really looking forward to having my Udie. It's a Ravenclaw one, because I love Harry Potter and I'm in Ravenclaw. So the fluffy fleece is going to have competition from an Udie when it arrives. So I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, and it's been interesting this week because of the news of dates when the whole social distancing, relaxing, and people able to get together. And funnily, it's quite funny actually, June 21st is when it's been announced that we could, not for certain, but we could have no social distancing measures from Monday the 21st of June. And it just so happened that I have the week of the 21st of June off. So I was like, oh yay, so loads of people in my office and that are scrambling to get that week off and booking holidays because they really wanted to get out and such. And I've already got that week off. So I'm like, oh, I'm sorted. I am sorted. So I'm happy about that. But anyway, let's talk about what I'm here to talk about, which is the review of the book I've been reading this week, well, pretty much the past few days, really, and that is The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. So yeah, as you can probably tell from my other videos, if you've watched them recently, because this period of time, January through to like the end of March, is the busiest time of year for where I work. Well, it's always extremely, extremely busy, but those 3 months are killer. I pretty much don't have that much energy when I finish work for the day. I'm trying to be really regimental with going out for a walk each day and such, and so I've got, time for myself in the evening where I can properly relax and do things. But there are days where I just have no energy. I had a day where I had the killer headache and I just couldn't watch any Doctor Who or TV or anything in the evening because I was just, my head was just banging. So because of that, my reading pattern does change, and I tend to read over like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, as it were, and give myself, or just very gently, a very small amounts in the weekdays, and then spend the bulk of it reading over the weekend. And yeah, so that's why there are some books that I really do want to read from my books in the range of books at the moment that I've got for the year, but because they were in this busy period, I know that I would be reading it because I, to get a review out, not because I have the energy and capacity to really focus on it. So that's why I'm leaving them to kind of like after March. So I am very much looking forward to when I'm able to do that. So yeah, so that's kind of where my reading pattern is at the moment, just because of the nature of my job. I can't help it if that's the situation. So yeah, so when I picked up The Family Upstairs, I thought this will probably take me about a week or so see how we go. You know, I didn't know what to expect from it because I hadn't read any of Lisa's books before. And so, yeah, I was just kind of like, let's see how this goes. And I had read a few chapters on the Thursday. I think it was the Thursday, or it might have been on Wednesday, and then had a break. And then I properly started yesterday. And I read, apart from the first few chapters, which is probably about to there, I read all of that yesterday in one sitting. I couldn't stop reading this book. And I was like, whoa, okay. So, yeah. So that's what I'm here to talk about. So The Family Upstairs, as I said, is by Lisa Jewell. She is a British writer, and this is book, I think, 18 or 19 or something. She's got like 20 books out. I've seen her books kind of like, you know, you see them on like offers on, you know, buy one get one half price, you know, that kind of thing. But I've never picked up any of her books. It was just literally, I was going through when I was picking books for the next for 2021, I just kind of stumbled on it, and I thought the concept was really interesting, and that's why I went for it. So it wasn't a recommendation, or, you know, people getting buzzed on the Facebook book club I'm a member of. It was just something about the concept caught me. And the concept of this book is that there is a girl called Libby who shares my birthday, and I was like, oh yeah, I like her already, she shares my birthday. And she's just turned 25, and she has this sort of life plan set for herself, and that life plan gets completely thrown out the window, or kicked out the window, or so, you know, however you want to say it, because she gets a phone call from a solicitor saying that she's inherited a house in Chelsea, London. So very, very expensive, and it's worth about 4 million plus, 4 at the very least, 4 million, and she's really taken aback by this, and she discovers that she has inherited it because her parents and another man whose identity has never been established well, they died in a house. It was a suicide pact, and there was a note scribbled next to their bodies saying, look after the little girl, her name is Serenity, and their initials written on it, so it's a suicide pact thing. And the police went upstairs to find a baby, 10-month-old baby, who had been looked after, was perfectly happy, but the bodies of these 3 adults were downstairs and had been there for several days when they were found. So it's like, well, who's looked after the baby? What the hell is going on? Where are they? And it was known that there were children in the house, there were other adults and such. All of them had disappeared. None of them have ever been traced. And Libby, or Serenity, had 2 siblings who also disappeared and never been found. And the house had been held in trust for the siblings for when they turned 25. So as the 2 older siblings turned 25, they waited for them to claim it. They never did. So it got passed down to Libby, and who has just turned 25. So she's inherited this house, and it's all about her trying to find out what happened. So I was like, oh, okay, right. Very interesting. Then the opening chapter happened, and it was it was like the couple next door. You remember how I absolutely hated that book, and I was like, oh god, oh no, please don't tell me I've fallen for a book that's like that. And then because of the tenses and such that was used. So if I just say, right, this is the first couple of paragraphs, okay? Libby picks the letter up off the doormat. She turns it in her hand. It looks very formal. The envelope is cream in colour, made of high grey paper, and feels as though that it might even be lined with tissue. The postal stamp Frank says, Smith Kinrud and Royal Solicitors, Chelsea Manor Street, SW3. She takes the letter into the kitchen and sits it on the table while she fills the kettle and puts a tea bag in the mug. Libby is pretty sure she knows what's in the envelope. She turned 25 last month. She's been subconsciously waiting for this envelope, but now it's here. She's not sure she can face to open it. So you see what I mean? Like, it's written like a screenplay, and I thought, oh my God, please don't tell me that it's going to be like this all the way through this book, because I don't know if I can handle it. And then the next chapter, it completely changed person and tense. And because we were following, then as well as following Libby, it follows these two individuals who you don't know exactly who they are, who have some link to the house. And yeah, following their journey, and one's in the past in the 80s and 90s, and one is in the present. They're two completely separate individuals. And when that happened, I was like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing, Lisa. I see what you're doing. And I thought that was quite interesting. That was when I stopped. And then, as I said, I think it was either Wednesday or Thursday, and then I picked it up yesterday, and I just started rolling through, and I couldn't stop reading. I thought it was a great book. I will say though, as much as I loved it, it's probably a 4 out of 5 for me. Now, the reason why I say that, there's two factors. One, there is a character, I'm not going to say who, I'm not going to say why, because that will completely spoil the story and the ending and all that lot. There is a character who has the final line of this book, and I was a bit like, I get why they've got the ending that they've got, but I don't know if they should have that ending. And especially the final line was very selfish. And I was like, well, that just reflects them. It was just like, yeah, I was a little irked by that, but that was the only character where I felt like the ending didn't quite suit what they'd been through, what they'd done. But all the other characters I was totally happy with. And the other reason why it gets a 4 out of 5 was that I felt like it's creepy. It engrossed me, because I was so engrossed by it. I didn't watch any Doctor Who yesterday because I was just like, my head was in this book and I just had to carry on with it. And it's really well written, but at the same time, I wish she had gone a bit darker, a bit more sinister, given what we learn about what happened inside the house. I kind of felt like if she had emphasised things like mould in the house, because what happened in the house very much was like, little dots, and then it spreads and goes crazy. If she'd done things more like Laura Purcell in Bone China, I absolutely loved the atmosphere of the house in that book. If she had done kind of more techniques like that really makes you feel on edge, even though you have no reason to feel on edge, to be on it. If it had more of that sinister, gut twisting feel, I think it really would have been a 5-star. So it's not quite there, but it's so close. It's so close to being there. As I said, it flips back and forth between multiple characters and accounts and the past and the present very, very well. You're pretty much flipping every single chapter, or you get like a couple of chapters like with Libby, and then you'll have a couple with the account from the past, and then a couple with the other person in the present. So the pacing is very good. It's not jarring, because you get used to it. It's very when I say get used to it, that kind of sounds as if it's something that you're forced to get used to. It's not. It just feels comfortable. It's not an issue. flipping back and forth and such. And there were moments where I was like, oh, holy shit, this is, this is, wow, there's some really fucked up stuff that happens in this book. But overall, I think it was very, very clever to show how what looks beautiful on the outside can be truly rotten on the inside, and that is also reflected in characters, in buildings and such. And Lisa is really, I don't know if this is across all her books, because obviously this is the first book of hers I've read, but she's really fascinated by buildings. She talks a lot about buildings in this book, and not in a bad way, because obviously you need to know structures and such, especially since the house, the Chelsea house, is the epicenter of this story, so you have to know about the rooms, the layouts and all that lot. But the fact that like Libby works for a kitchen company, a luxury kitchen company, so Libby's job is linked to buildings, and like buildings, because the other character in the present is in France, and how she talks about French architecture. I really liked that. This whole theme, like I said, of beauty on the outside can mean rotten on the inside. It's a mask, it's a facade, and it certainly is a facade for events that happen throughout. I really like the characters. I thought they were great. I can't say specifics because there's the whole things of who people really are and stuff like this and stories. So I'm going to be very, very careful about what I said. I thought Libby was a really great protagonist character. She has expectations for herself, but then at the same time it's like a plan that she set herself, but it's not like it's unachievable, but at the same time it's, you know, a confidence factor with her of, can she actually achieve it, and what does she want to do? And her friend Dido, who works in her office, I love her. I think she's brilliant character, just what Libby needs, just what she needs. But for the other characters in the house, I found it really interesting how corruption, it showed how manipulation really works, and what people want versus, you know, let me phrase that another way. Those that help people may have a different motive, and what that means to people. It was really interesting psychologically how she looked at that, and how manipulating a younger group of people versus a group of adults, what the impact is. I thought that was very, very well done for a 400, I think it was 440 page book, 446 page book, to do what she did with, as I said, flicking back and forth between past and present, and following these very different people, all of the intricacies, all of the twists and turns. I thought she did absolutely brilliantly. As I said, if it was just that bit more sinister and dark, you know, the way using more, I can't think what the word is, more dynamic wording, which would make you have this undertone that it's really a lot more sinister in a very calm unsinister environment and such. I think it would put the reader more on edge, and so would have taken it a bit darker, which the story I think needed more. But other than that, I'm very very impressed, I have to say. So I'm just going to do a reading. It's a bit of a longer reading, but it's just to explain the kind of darker stuff, to you know what I mean. And this is Libby. She has been to the house already with a solicitor when she first got the keys, and she learned some information about the death of her parents and this random man who's never been identified in the house. And this is her first time going back to the house after learning that information from an article. So she's like walking through the house and seeing the article in a new light, because she's literally just looking in the rooms where these things happened. Okay, so Libby put the key into the padlock on the wooden hoarding and turns it. The padlock slides open and she puts another key into the front door. She half expects a hand on her shoulder, someone to ask her what she's doing, if she has permission to open this door with these keys. Then she's in the house, her house, and she's alone. She closes the door behind her and the sound of the morning traffic dies away immediately. The burn on her neck cools. For a moment she stands entirely still. She pictures the police here where she stands. They were wearing old-fashioned helmets. She knew what they looked like because there was a picture of them in the Guardian article. PC's Ali Shah and John Robin. They were following up on an anonymous call to the station from a concerned neighbour. The concerned neighbour had never been traced. She follows Shah and Robin's vanished footsteps into the kitchen. She imagines the smell growing stronger now. PC Shah recalled the sound of flies. He said he thought someone had left a pair of clippers running or an electric toothbrush. The bodies, they say, were in the very earliest stages of decay, still recognisable as an attractive, dark-haired, 30-something woman and an older man with salt and pepper hair. Their hands were linked. Next to them lay the corpse of another man, 40-ish, tall, dark hair. They all wore black, the woman a tunic and leggings, the men a kind of robe. The items, it transpired, had been homemade. They later found a sewing machine in the back room, remnants of black fabric in a bin. Apart from the buzzing flies, the house was deadly quiet. The police said that they wouldn't have thought to look for a baby if it hadn't been for the mention of her on the note left on the dining room table. They almost missed the dressing room off the master bedroom, but then they heard a noise. An ooh, PC Shah had said. An ooh. Libby steps slowly up the staircase and into the bedroom. She peers around the corner of the door into the dressing room. And there she'd been, bonny as anything. That's what PC Robbins had said. Bonny as anything. Her flesh crawls slightly at the sight of a painted crib, but she breaks through the discomfort and stares at the crib until she is desensitized. After a moment, she feels neutral enough to lay a hand upon it. She pictures the two young policemen peering over the top of the crib. She imagines herself in her pure white baby grow, her hair already a full helmet of Shirley Temple curls, even only at 10 months, her feet kicking up and down with excitement at the sight of two friendly faces staring down at her. She tries to stand up, said Robin, but she was pulling up the side of the cot, desperate to be taken out. We didn't know what to do. She was evidence. Should we touch her? Should we call for backup? We were flummoxed. Apparently they decided not to pick her up. PC Shah sang songs to her while they waited to hear what they should do. Libby wished that she could remember it. What songs had he sung to her, this kind young policeman? Had he enjoyed singing her the songs? Had he felt embarrassed? According to the article, he'd gone on to have 5 children of his own, but when he found Serenity Lamb in her crib, he'd had no experience of babies. A crime scene team soon arrived in the house, including a special officer to collect the baby. Her name was Felicity Measures. She was 41 at the time. Now she's 65 and newly retired, living in the Algarve with her 3rd husband. She was the dearest baby, the article quoted her. Golden curls, well fed and cared for, very smiley and cuddly, incongruous given the setting in which she had been left, which was gothic, really. Yes, it was quite gothic. Libby pushes the cot and it creaks pathetically, evidencing its great age. Who was it bought for, she wonders. Was it bought for her, or for generations of babies before her? because she now knows that there are other players of this story of hers, not just Martina and Henry Lamb and the mysterious man, not just the missing children. Neighbours had spoken of not two, but numerous children, of other people coming and going. The house was filled with untraceable bloodstains and DNA, with fibres and dropped hairs and strange notes and scribbles on the walls and secret panels, and a garden full of medicinal herbs, some of which had been used in her parents' apparent suicide pact. We are setting ourselves free from these broken bodies, from this despicable world, from pain and disappointment. Our baby is called Serenity Lamb. She's 10 months old. Please make sure that she goes to nice people. Peace always, HLMLDT, the note by their decaying bodies had said. Libby leaves the room and slowly wanders the house, seeking out some of the strange things found in the aftermath of the deaths. Whoever else had been in the house the night of the suicides had run, the article said, leaving wardrobe doors flung open, food in the fridge, half-read books open on the floor, pieces of paper torn from walls leaving behind the sellotape corners. She finds one of those strips of sellotape on the wall in the kitchen, yellowed and crisp. She tugs a small shard of paper from it and stares at it for a moment in the palm of her hand. What had been on this piece of paper that the people fleeing this sinking ship had not wanted other eyes to see? There is a fridge in the country-style kitchen, a huge, rustling American-style fridge, cream and beige, probably quite unusual in the UK in the 80s, she imagines. She pulls it open and peers inside. Speckles and mould, a pair of cracked and broken plastic ice trays, nothing more. In the kitchen cupboard, she finds empty and laminated tins of packed flowers, so old that it turned to a brick. There's a set of white teacups, a chrome teapot, ancient pots of herbs and spices, a toast rack, a large tray painted black. She scratches at the black paint to reveal the silver beneath. She wonders why someone would paint a silver tray black. And then she stops. She's heard something. Some sort of movement from upstairs. She slides a tray back into the cupboard and stands at the foot of the stairs. She hears the sound again, a sort of dull thump. Her heart quickens. She tiptoes to the landing, and there it is again, and then her heart rate doubles at the sound. Someone clears their throat. Mr. Royal, she thinks. It must be Mr. Royal, the solicitor. It couldn't be anyone else. She shut the doors behind her and when she arrived. Definitely. Hello? She calls out. Hello, Mr. Royal? But there's silence. An immediate, deliberate silence. Hello? She calls out again. The silence sits like a still bear at the top of the house. She can almost hear the thump of someone's pulse. So there you go. So, you know, I just kind of feel like that first bit when she's walking through and it's having the flashback of the article, if she did more description to talk about like decaying floorboards and creaks and such, I really felt like that would give it more of an atmosphere. And then when she then has that thump, it means something else. It's a different sort of sound. It's, you know, I just felt like if she had pushed the writing just a little bit more to give it a bit more atmosphere, then I think it would have been a 5-star, but it's a 4-star. So, you know, I could have forgiven the ending, as I said, for that one character who I didn't feel quite had the ending that they deserved. But for what was done, for the pacing, the amount of time, the story, the structure, I thought she did absolutely brilliantly. So yeah, this is a good one. I'm really glad I got a good read after, you know, I didn't do too well last week with the 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. So yeah, those are my thoughts on The Family Upstairs. I haven't looked into the audiobook. I think I might quite like to look into the audiobook now that I've finished it and I've enjoyed it. I have seen on the Facebook book club that some people have mentioned this and said that the audiobook is very good. So I might have to look into that. But yes, let's go through the questions. So, would I read this again? Yeah, I definitely would. Now I know what I know. I'm like, I really want to go back through. Like even just reading that just then, we're talking about the house and like the sellotape messages and the paper and the tray. I'm like, oh, that means something totally different to me now that I know what those things are. Yeah, so I'd be quite intrigued to do that. Would I not leave? I'm not leaving. Would I read any more of Lisa's books? I definitely would. Yeah, I think I might have to look into her other books and see what they're like. This is from 2019. This got published. So obviously this paperback version came out sometime in 2020. And she's published one book since then. As I said, I think she's got about 20 books. So yeah. This is one of her more recent ones. So going back through her other books earlier on in her career, I'd be quite interested to see if development of her writing and different, if she has books, because I, as I said, I haven't looked into them, so I don't know if she stays with this same kind of crime thriller sort of genre, or she does kind of different types, different genres. I don't know. I'd be quite intrigued to go through. Would I recommend this to anyone? Yes, I certainly would. I think comparing to like The Woman in the Window, I think this is better than that, but it's not as good, as I said, as like a gothic writer like Laura Purcell. So I think if you liked things like Girl on a Train or The Woman in the Window, that kind of story, I think this would really suit you. And it's really easy to read. It's very much, I think it's more targeted, as it were, to taking a book on holiday, but it's not so simple that you know specifically it's been written for that purpose, if you see what I mean. So yeah, it's kind of, yeah, caught in that kind of trap. But I'd say anybody pick this up, give it a go, see what you think. So yeah, that's my thoughts on The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. Have you read this book? I'd love to know what you think. You can leave me a comment in the comments box below, or give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, entirely up to you on each side. And I'll be back with my thoughts on the next book I'm reading, which I've already announced, which I'm so excited for, which is The Skull's Bridle by Minette Walters. My sister and my mum absolutely love this book, and I never got round to reading it, and I am now, so see how we go. All right then guys, bye.